Good morning, traders. I am Emily Advani, the CEO of the Investment Banking Institute and your host here at NewsWare's Trade Talk. Joining me is trading anchor Bill Olson, who brings more than 30 years of institutional trading experience to our program. At Trade Talk, we provide the facts, themes, and trading ideas for the day ahead. Today is Tuesday, July 15th. Investors anticipate the latest read on inflation this morning as markets are coming off a muted session yesterday. All three major indices closed marginally higher. The Dow added 88 points or 0.2%. The S&P 500 picked up 8 points or 0.14%. The Nasdaq gained 54 points or just more than 0.25%. But let's get into today's action with what is happening in the markets this morning.
Good morning, Emily. I'm watching the S&Ps. We're up 0.3% this morning, so that's a kind of a positive start to the day. I mean, the big story is Nivida being given the green light to ship its H20 chips to China. So that kind of helps the narrative around the U.S.-China relations, and it really helps out Nvidia. And you've seen some strong gains in that stock this morning. President Trump indicated a willingness to discuss tariff rates with the EU. That's also positive. And he's going to be in Pennsylvania today, and he's expected to announce a $70 billion investment in AI and energy. This could be something for some of these energy stocks. What else in the trade desk? TTD, it got included in the S&P 500. We've known about it for a while. It was replacing another stock, but because of that, you're seeing big gains in TTD today. What is selling off is AppLovin, ticker APP, and DoorDash, DASH, because they didn't get included. Well, we already know that's a kind of a bit of an overreaction. So those two stocks could turn. After the bell, before the bell today, you got the inflation data. The CPI data is coming out. So, it's expected to run hot. So we got to be really cautious about the market heading into that 8:30 hour. On the earnings front, JP Morgan, Bank of New York, Goldman, Bank of New York, and Wells Fargo, they all delivered earnings beats. They're all positive. Tomorrow morning, you got Johnson & Johnson, Bank of America, Morgan Stanley, and Goldman Sachs all set to report. Now we're taking a quick look over at Asia to see how the European markets are doing, and we are showing green. I mean, the DAX is up 18 points. That's 0.08%, so it's marginally, but it is higher. I mean, positive performance in autos, techs, and pharma stocks. Okay, FTSE has turned from red to green. It's now up 0.06. It was trading lower all morning, so that's good to see. The CAC is flat. It's flat to higher. It's up 2 points. I will say the European area industrial production rose 1.7% month over month in May. That was, better than the fall of 2.2% that we saw in April. So, that's kind of positive. And then you're looking over at Asia, and Asia was mainly green. I mean, the Nikkei jumped 218 points or 0.55%. Saw some positive action in tech and financials. And then you look at the Hang Seng jumped 1.6% or 386 points. Consumer, property, financial stocks all saw, positive gains. China was a little lower. It fell 14 points, 0.42%. They released a lot of economic data. The GDP was positive, but the retail sales continue to be a little weak, and that's caused the market to kind of pull back a little bit. And then you turn your attention over to oil, and oil is mixed this morning. I mean, it's essentially flat. You got WTI at $66.96 a barrel. You got Brent at $69.26 a barrel after the bell today. You get the American Petroleum Institute's stockpile estimates. They're due out, but that's really the next catalyst that we're going to have for oil prices, Emily.
And Bill, it feels like what don't we have on the docket today here? A lot of details to dive in, based on your opening, and not least of which is earnings action. We will get to those economic events in just a moment, but let's start with earnings. You gave us a preview of some of the banks that released and some to look ahead to. So Bill, what is going on in terms of earnings action?
Well, let's take a look here. I mean, we got Citibank, they beat by 35 cents. You look at that stock this morning, and Citibank is trading higher, slightly higher, not significantly, just fractionally higher. You got Wells Fargo, they beat by 20 cents. They did it on higher revenue. Wells Fargo is down 2.85%. You get JP Morgan, they beat by 49 cents, but they did it on lower revenue. Stock's down 1% this morning. That's what I said. even with a good earnings report from JP Morgan, it typically sells off because the anticipation going into the event is typically higher than what the earnings are going to be. And that's what we're seeing today with JP Morgan. So I'm not surprised to see it down 1% this morning. Upcoming after tomorrow morning, we got Goldman Sachs, ticker GS. EPS is $9.43. Expected move is 4.13%. You also have Morgan Stanley, ticker MS, Michael Sam. Their EPS is $1.93. Their expected move is 4.17%. And Johnson & Johnson, their EPS is $2.66. Expected move is 2.70% when they release tomorrow morning, Emily.
And now onto the day's economic events. The big headline here, of course, is that CPI report that we both mentioned, along with a couple of other pieces of data. And what's interesting today, we have a whole host of Fed speak, and this will be following that inflation report. So we will be digging for clues on how the Fed feels about the latest data on inflation. So, Bill, give us a rundown. What is going on in terms of the day's economic events?
Let's just bang it out real quick. 8:30 a.m. we get the CPI report, the inflation report. 8:30 a.m. Eastern time, you get the Empire State Manufacturing Index. 4:30, you get 4:30 in the afternoon, you get the API oil stockpile estimates. 9:15 a.m. this morning, you're going to hear from Fed Governor Michelle Baumann. 12:45 p.m. you're going to hear from Fed Governor Michael Barr. 1 p.m. we'll hear from Richmond Fed Bank President Thomas Parkin. 2:45 p.m. we're going to hear from Boston Fed Bank President Susan Collins. And at 7:45 p.m. this evening, Dallas Fed Bank President Lori Logan. In terms of the CPI, the annual inflation rate in the U.S. it's likely to accelerate for the second consecutive month to 2.7% in June. That's the highest level since February, and would be up from the 2.4 that we saw in May. So we are expecting monthly core, to rise up 0.3%, up from 0.1 in May. So this is likely the sharpest increase in 5 months, and the stockpiling that was being done ahead of it was significant. But it seems to be people are going through those inventories. So the inflation is likely going to start either this month or next month, and the indications are that it's starting now. So that CPI at 8:30, that's going to be the key report today, Emily.
Bill, and given that that piece of data is highly anticipated and certainly will be market moving, getting that piece of information out of the gate is important to stay ahead of markets, not trail behind the major news outlets. You want to have this professional newswire so you can grab that CPI as it comes out. You have your economic alerts set up for that. You have earnings alerts set up following this earnings action as it picked up. And you're still able to follow other market moving information, looking at things like merger news, guidance news, shareholders meetings, buyback news, and catalyst calls, taking a look at your stocks group together like your FANG stocks and your Dow 30 stocks, tracking trends on the trading day. Bill, what else do you see is possibly moving the markets today?
Just doing a quick data check. I got 10 Dow stocks higher, 20 lower. The big winner, of course, is Nivida, which is up 4.37% this morning. It's really a big shot in the arm that chip sales to China. Then you look at your FANG stocks, and they're all trading higher. I mean, they're kind of getting a little they're being fueled by that Nvidia news. So yeah, that's all positive. So that's why you see the S&P's up 0.28% right now. You look at some of the news behind the tape, like Apple smartphones market share in Q2 in China is said to be at 13.9%, still beneath Huawei. Amazon, listen, Prime Day is over. They came out and they said they had a successful Prime Day. But now the attention is really starting to move over towards that AWS summit that's going to start in New York City tomorrow. AWS summit, New York City, Amazon, starts tomorrow. Google, they reached an agreement to secure up to 3 gigawatts of U.S. hydropower. That's the largest clean energy deal ever. Shares of Google, you look at the stock, it's up by 0.27% this morning. Tesla trading slightly higher. Musk is apparently considering Tesla to fund XAI. Okay, in terms of Dow Jones 30s, Chevron, you got to keep an eye on because Trump's expected to make that announcement of $70 billion in AI and energy investments today in Pennsylvania. That could do something for that stock. We want to keep an eye on that. Nvidia, NVDA, hey, they got the green light from the White House. They're talking to China. They got chip sales ready to go to China, those H20 chips. So yeah, this is kind of cements the U.S.-China trade deal as well. So yeah, NVIDIA is just having a great day. It's up 4.38% now. In terms of shareholders meetings, you want to talk about Constellation Brands, ticker STZ, Sam Tom Zebra. They're having a shareholders meeting today at 11 a.m. In terms of catalyst events, Hood and App, HOOD and APP, Robinhood and App Lovin. They're both trading lower as they were not picked to join the S&P 500. However, rebalancing is going to occur at the end of the month. So while the weakness is there today, that could change by the end of the month as these two are names being thrown around to be included in the S&P 500. So keep an eye on those things for opportunities, Hood and APP. And that's what I have for you in terms of news in the tape this morning, Emily.
This is the type of data that NewsWare delivers daily. It's factual, it's market moving, and our alerting functions bring it to your attention as it happens. Go to www.newsware.com now and sign up for the trial and see for yourself the benefits that professional Newswire delivers. It is now that time of the show for the Trade Talk pick of the day. Bill, what is your pick of the day today?
Going with Johnson & Johnson, Johnny John, ticker J&J. John, Nancy, John. Hey, earnings are tomorrow morning. EPS is $2.66. Expected move is 2.47%. In terms of the option data yesterday, I mean, you're looking at a call put ratio of 1.2 calls every one put, which is positive. So you do kind of like that. In the brokers, they're all positive. They're raising price targets on the stock. That's good to see. But in terms of an entry price, I want to get in under 156. I mean, I'm going to say 155.25 to 155.75, like in that range. I think that 50-cent range is acceptable. So let's just break it even, call it 155.50. But that's kind of my entry price for Johnson & Johnson today. I think with that CPI report coming out, it's going to run hot, and that could really push the stock down a little bit and create that buying opportunity, and the stock could turn around later in the day and tomorrow morning. So I got two opportunities for it to turn. So I'm looking for Johnson & Johnson as my pick of the day today, ticker J&J, 155.50, Emily.
J&J it is today on an earnings play, and again taking into account that CPI report, making this call well ahead of the opening bell. Not an easy thing to do, but we will watch that one along with you. And coming up, we will do a recap on yesterday's pick of the day, which was also an earnings play, so we'll check in on that. But first, let's take a look at the current breaking headlines that have hit the tape in our hot off the press segment. Bill, take it away.
Okay, what do we see here? CMND, Clear Mind Medicine expands its phase 1 trial. Okay. WPP jumps 5% after campaign report of Accenture deal talks. Baidu and Uber to partner and to accelerate autonomous vehicle development. MDXG, Michael David, X-Ray Grace, MyMedX group is weakening. There's that CMS, it's Medicare spending. There's a proposal that came out that is weakening stock this morning. Bank of New York came out with a nice beat this morning. BK. CoreWeave, CRWV, the AI company, plans to spend $6 billion on building an AI data center in Pennsylvania. See, that's part of the Trump push. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's positive. Oracle, the cloud service provider, they're going to invest $3 billion over the next 5 years in cloud infrastructure in Germany and the Netherlands to meet upbeat demand. Tesla is launching its Model Y in India. That's what I'm seeing this morning, Emily.
Okay, Bill, before we get to trading on this Tuesday, let's do that check-in on yesterday's pick of the day, which was Albertsons. They did report earnings this morning. They reported a Q1 adjusted EPS of 55 cents. That was 1 cent ahead of the consensus of 54 cents. They reported Q1 revenue of $24.88 billion, sneaking ahead of that consensus of $24.69 billion. They did back their full year 2025 adjusted EPS view, and they backed their full year 2025 adjusted EBITDA view as well. Bill, you made this call yesterday. You were hoping for a specific entry point. How did your call work out?
It worked out. I mean, ACI wasn't a bad call. I mean, look at the stock. It opened up at $22.35, which I was like, I'm not paying that. I'll pay low 22 or under. Well, it did fall. It fell all the way down to $22.03. That was where the opportunity was. And then, it closed higher. And then look at it, look at it in the aftermarket. I mean, it actually hit 22.38 in the aftermarket last night, and it hit 22.25 this morning. So either way, there that 1% was there off of that entry price I gave out, Emily.
1% was there in ACI. We'll call that one a win, and we will check in with you tomorrow about today's Johnson & Johnson's pick of the day. Bill, thank you as always for your expert insight. Join us back here tomorrow and each weekday morning this week at NewsWare's Trade Talk when we provide the facts, themes, and trading ideas for the day ahead. Again, I'm your host, Emily Advani, here with trading anchor Bill Olson. Traders, you know what to do. Let's go out there and make some green.